for e-commerce.
Okay.
Into the process.
Okay.
We report to the same direction.
Okay.
Report to the same direction.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too. So, you know, that's another important thing, because a lot of people, because passwords are getting too complicated, they're using the same password, which means a compromise on one system becomes a compromise on another system, right? So that's kind of a key takeaway, and there's some stats here. So what we like to do is first talk about passwords, and you know, passwords really is a crisis, if you think about it, right? There are issues with passwords. As passwords get more complex, people forget passwords, or people, you know, go to things like weak passwords. People are fairly careless with passwords. You know, how many people write, you know, you walk in so many computer places I've been to, you walk in and they've got the yellow stickies with the password. On my phone, in my notes, I have all my passwords that I ever need, because it's easier to remember when you put in a note than doing something else with it. So that's an issue. Forgotten passwords needs reset. Obviously, that's an issue. And that's a really interesting issue, because I recently talked to a company that everyone considers to be one of the safest in the world for security, and it was PayPal. Mm-hmm. You all know PayPal. And PayPal and we share a parking lot in Omaha, so our offices are in the same parking lot, so I know a lot of people that work there. So a friend of mine works there as a programmer, and he understands encryption. So I asked him one day, I said, can you explain to me how secure your passwords are? And he went through this explanation about how they hash it, they encrypt it, they obfuscate it, how all this encryption does. And at the end of it, he goes, well, what do you think? I go,
part of the password?
How they secure their password, how they store it.
How they store it secure in a secure manner.
Right?
I don't know.
No, I'm saying, so this is the conversation I had with PayPal, right?
PayPal.
So they explained to me all the things they do with the password. And then I turned to him and I said, but your passwords are not really that safe.
Okay.
And then he says to me, he says, well, why is that? I just told you, you understand encryption, because I do understand a lot of encryption. He says, you understand encryption, but you're telling me passwords are not safe, and I told you what we do. But I said, you missed one point. And that is my PayPal account is hooked up to my Hotmail account. Which means my password is only as good as my Hotmail password. PayPal has no issue anymore. Someone hacks my Hotmail, they see all these emails from PayPal for things I buy, things I pay. They go to PayPal and say, reset password. I said, what do? Yes, I send a link to your Hotmail. Well, so your security now is Hotmail security. It's got nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter what you do with your password. It's not safe because my Hotmail is now my least point of security in this system. So when you look at a lot of banks, a lot of organizations, that's what they do, right? So banks, they're going away from email, they're trying to go to voicemails and SMS text messages, right? Which is the one-time pass. But if you guys in the banking industry, you obviously know that text messages are not safe anymore either. I mean, with things like Pegasus and SV Ping, the malware that you can actually get on your phones, you can actually get text messages rerouted to another phone. So that one-time password that gets texted out is not safe, not that safe anymore either. So really, we're going through this crisis of actually having issues because, you know, especially if you're a corporate client, and you have lots of money in your bank account, this starts becoming a real issue. Because how do you know who is actually doing that transfer, who's doing that payment, or whatever that is going on, right? And then of course you've got lost and stolen devices. So, for example, in my company, we use LastPass as a way to store some critical passwords for our company wide. But to do that, you still need to have one a way to recover the master password for LastPass. That needs to be tied to something, which is tied to my phone again, right? So if someone was to steal my phone, now anyone knows that anywhere in Mexico, I'm sure, because I can do this in the US, I can go get on an iPhone, the PIN unlocked easily, right? I mean, that's $10 and most people will unlock the PIN for you. There's an app that you can run on a Mac that you plug the phone into and you can reset the actual PIN number. So once they get past that, my company's details are all at risk because this device is the device that is tied to unlocking my LastPass account, which really creates an interesting issue. So as the world is going through, what they're doing is they're looking at other options, obviously, and what do we do beyond passwords? Because passwords are not working for us anymore. Technology is caught up with passwords. So they're looking at biometrics as kind of the next thing, right? So what I'd like to do is go through some biometrics. Now, when you're looking at fingerprint, iris, and facial recognition, you can get some very accurate technologies in this space. However, the cost can be quite expensive because you might have to buy specialized cameras and you have to buy a lot of equipment to actually make that work, right? But if you're going back to this device, then you're now trusting back on this device as to what this device is doing. The camera quality is not the same as a $10,000 facial recognition camera, like they have at the airport, for example, right? I mean, the cameras in these things are not the same quality. So there's some independent studies done by a group called Opus Research, which is like Gartner, but they actually look at just biometrics. And they've actually found out that voice has the least amount of risk from an accuracy perspective. It's the most accurate biometric out there on commercially viable technologies. That's the key, right? You know, if you put a $10,000 camera in, yeah, you can get facial recognition to work really well, but it's not practical with every customer of a bank, for example, right? And obviously going to commercially viable technology, meaning the device that the consumer owns, there's absolutely no cost in it. It's a free deployment. But there's another part to a biometric that we believe is really important, and that is that you think about when you transact with your bank today. If you go to the teller, you're gonna have a driving license. If you call the contact center, you need to answer questions, some special question, you know, what did you have for breakfast or whatever it is that they ask, right? If you go to your portal or a web app, you need to have a password and challenge questions there. None of these things are the same, right? So our question to our customers nowadays, our customer is like a corporate that has their own customer base, obviously. Why do you make it so complex for your consumer? Your consumer is your biggest asset, right? If you didn't have the person banking with you, you're not a bank. If the person didn't bring money and deposit, you're not a bank. But why are you taking that most valuable asset of yours and make it so complicated for them? Because if they go on the web, they've got to remember a password. If they go face-to-face, they've got to remember to bring a driving license. If they go on the phone, they've got to remember what questions they've got to answer. Why is it making this complex? So there's a lot of organizations around the world now are trying to sort this with biometrics, right? And then they're finding out that when you look at, again, the biometrics like finger and face, they don't work in every environment. They can't work in facial recognition, for example, can't work in face-to-face. It's not very practical, right? Over the phone, doesn't work. And another area that is growing in popularity now, and I'm assuming it does in Mexico too, is online chats. Now, because an online chat, you can have one agent talking to 5 people at the same time. It's much more efficient than an agent being on the phone with one customer at a time, because the process is quite slow. You know, agent time is much better used. So, you know, for example, you say, you know, the average caller calls in and they're going through an ID. Go, what's your account number? Oh, hang on, let me look it up. While they're looking it up, the agent's just sitting on the phone, right? But on an online chat, they're talking to someone else, helping someone else out. So it's actually multitasking through those agents. But in those environments, you find that these other biometrics really don't work well unless you're willing to put a lot of equipment out, which is not practical. Right? And even in the self-service area, these biometrics only really work in the mobile platforms. Except for voice, can work in all those platforms. And we're not just talking our voice solution, to any voice biometric solution, because in a face-to-face you actually have an interaction, right? In a self-service, if you have a simple solution, and I will demo you how that works, it's a very simple solution to actually do your self-service with the voice. Contact center, obviously you're talking to someone, so it works. In a chat, you can actually use the same kind of approach that we use in self-service to actually authenticate in a chat environment. So a lot of the people are studying, like Gartner at the moment, Forrester that's doing studies on this, actually coming up and saying, you know, voice is really a better option, because people, you don't have to learn anything to talk, because most people can talk and they can say something, right? So then we get into comparing all the voice solutions out there. We have competitors in the voice solutions. Nuance being one of them. You probably heard of Nuance. They're the biggest company in this space. The one benefit that we have against Nuance or any other competitors is the time we take to authenticate. Most biometric solutions require anything from 8 to 16 seconds of speech to the authentication. So that works great in a contact center, because you're on the phone already, you're talking to an agent, you can, 8 seconds of speech, 16 seconds of speech, you can get that, because you're just saying, hello, how are you doing, and here's my account number, you're getting some speech out of that. But if you want to go down to actually logging into a portal, for example, I mean, if you think about 20 seconds of speech, it sounds like a little number, but it's actually a lot of speech, right? And if you think about wanting to log into your banking portal and you've got to talk into it for 20 seconds, what do you say? You know, what can the portal ask you, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a phone app, it can ask you a question, but if I ask, how was your day, you'll say good, right? How was your weekend? I had a great time. Well, that's about 2 seconds of speech. Well, how do you get 20 seconds without making that customer have the pain of it, right? Yeah. So this is one of the key advantages that we have in our technology, because we can make that choice in 2 seconds. We can make that authentication decision in 2 seconds. We don't need the 8 to 16 seconds of speech, right? And by doing that, so 2 seconds of speech is basically saying your phone number. It's as simple as that. So the app can say your phone number, you say your phone number, we've got enough speech to actually authenticate you.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you think about it from a replacement of a password, from a replacement of identifying people across every channel, if you can have one way, take yourself out of your PROSA hat for a minute. Put your personal hat on, right? I want to go to my bank. Think about how easy it would be that every time you transact or interact with your bank, interact with your phone company, that you have one way you identify yourself, and that's repeat your phone number. Right? It's simple. It doesn't matter what you do. Whether you're logging into their portal, whether you're logging into at the telecounter, you're calling on the phone, whatever it is, you just do one way. Nothing you can forget. And if you get to that point, you actually improve that customer experience has a lot of value, because now you're improving the experience your customer is actually having with that entity. Does that make sense so far? So just to wrap up a little about what I said, because I'm getting close to what I'm actually going to say here from a presentation perspective, is we are what they call a truly omni-channel biometric, because we can make that decision in 2 seconds. Like I said, we don't need you to talk for 20 seconds, so we can log you onto a portal with a phone number. So we are an omni-channel, meaning one way of authenticating across every channel that you actually interact with your consumers, right? Which is the end user, really, which is your asset, right? The other part that is important is we also can do this identification with unscripted speech, unscripted natural speech. What that means is that, say for example, you call a contact center and you're having a conversation with the contact center, but the agent says, look, I can't help you, I need to switch you to another agent. In most cases, when that other agent picks up the phone, because they'll put you back in a queue, you go through a queue, you get another agent. What does that other agent have to do? They've got to re-authenticate you, right? In most cases, they will ask you, what's your bank account number, what's your date of birth, what's your mother's maiden name, whatever the questions they're going to ask, they're going to re-authenticate. That, when you're re-authenticating, now I come from a telco world, I come from the communication world, so I understand why they do that from a technical perspective, but it still frustrates me. You go, well, I just gave you all that information to the other guy, why am I giving it to you now again, right? So it's a thing everyone goes through. Being able to do unscripted speech means that you can do the authentication without ever asking a question that second or third time around. Because all I've got to say is, hey, how was your day? How are you doing? I'm pulling up your record, so while I'm pulling up, where are you today? Whatever. Just have a conversation with the person. It's a much more of a relaxed conversation, but we can authenticate off that regular conversation rather than saying, okay, can you tell me your account number again? Can you tell me your password again? Can you tell me your mother's maiden name again? Or whatever the questions you ask. Right? So that's an important part. We'd be happy to provide, there's a study done by a university in Australia that actually did a comparison between all the biometrics out there today. And they actually came up and actually picked us as the most secure biometric out there. So there's some independent studies that were performed. It was something that we didn't pay for. It was just an independent study that was done. Right? The other part that is really important is while we use a mobile device for the authentication itself is never done at the mobile device. So the mobile device only captures your speech and sends it to the server side. So everything is done server side. So hacking the app in the mobile phone does not mean you can actually hack a system or whatever, because there's nothing in that phone. The phone doesn't do any connectivity between the phone and the end user. The phone only basically captures the speech and sends it to our application for verification purposes. So, which adds another level of security to your system. The process is really simple. We have an onboarding, like anything, like a fingerprint. If you have an iPhone, you have to put your finger down a few times, the same kind of thing, right? We have a voice print, and what we do is when we get a new sample of speech, we actually match it up against the voice print we already store, and we say whether it's yes or no, it's the right person or not, right? It can actually be a continuous verification process. What that means is that, say for example, if someone is getting an account balance, it may be a simple thing, maybe it's not as required security requirement, so you can do it with a one question. But maybe if they want to transfer $1 million, maybe it needs more security because now the money's going out of your bank. You can actually ask more questions, do a continuous verification to actually require more speech, require more certainty, require more information to actually make that decision. So it can be a continuous verification process, right? Which is kind of key, especially as the transaction values or what you're protecting becomes more important. We have some studies actually show how our speed and our speed of actually processing the data, right? And so for example, on our sizing, on a 4-core system, on a 4-core server, we're running Windows. On AWS is an EC2 instance, they call it, which is a 4-core system. We can do at 53% capacity, we can run at about 17.5 TPS. Right? So that's a very small server to get 17.5 TPS, so our performance and our accuracy is extremely high. We do have a live aware feature. Basically that means that if you're doing a so for example, if you're face-to-face or talking to your contact center, we don't need to check whether you're alive because you're talking to someone. But if you're doing self-service, where you are logging into a portal or something, we want to make sure that it's not a recording and not a high-quality recording of some sort that someone's playing games in. So we actually have a liveness test feature that we actually make sure that you're alive in the process.
Yeah.
Right?
I understand in the point 3 that we don't function with a voice recording. No funciona con una...
No, it won't function, no. Because we actually have a liveness test. We actually check to see that you're alive.
If you're recording in the cell phone and after that you try to identify it with this recording, it's not working.
It's not working because it's a live.
We actually do a live check. So we do a very simple process.
Why? How do you
So what?
How do
It's
you know that this is not recording?
Because what we
How
do
do
is
you validate this validation?
what we do is we do a simple thing on the phone. We actually show you 4 numbers and say, can you repeat that?
Tú puedes grabar, ahorita en la primera vez que tú te tratas de autentificar, te dice, repite este número, 1, 3, 5, 7. La segunda vez que tú tratas de autentificarte, no te dice el mismo número, sino te dice 8, 4, 3, 9.
Es un
Y la
random.
siguiente te va a decir otro número.
Ajá.
Entonces, si yo te grabo el primero, el segundo pues no va a concordar, aunque yo...
Eso no tengo problemas, claro.
Hay una sintonía en la voz.
Exactamente, o sea,
Hay
hay
una
una
validación
validación adicional que cuando yo hablo que cuando queda grabado.
Sí,
Sí.
sí. Sí, eso son los algoritmos que ellos tienen para verificar. O sea, no solamente es tan seguro que reconoce tu voz, ajá, y pero no puede hacerse, por ejemplo, si nos hackean la base de datos con tu voz, ajá, no se puede hacer ingeniería de reversa para construir tu voz, o sea, no la pueden modificar. Ajá. Ellos checan parámetros, lo que es la voz, tonos y espacios y todo eso.
¿Qué es la diferencia entre los patrones y biométrico? No, o sea, básicamente es
El
eso, ¿no?
patrón nada más te dice, di tu nombre, siempre vas a decir tu nombre.
Y en el patrón sí puede ser más fácil que te hackeen o que puedas hacer alguna
Y
truco.
lo comparan contra grabación. Aquí no, aquí nada más son los algoritmos de tu voz.
De tu voz. Y cuando lo vuelves a repetir, se vuelven a comparar esos algoritmos con la diferencia de los números.
Y por ejemplo, temas de
Por-
estado de ánimo, por ejemplo.
Yeah,
sickness.
what happened, for example,
Puede ser lo borracho.
Sí me pasa.
what happened when I have a healthy problem like this.
Right.
That in the first I recorded my voice with good, healthy, but now I have the problem.
Right.
What happened in that case?
Well, so what you're looking for in any biometric, right?
Okay.
In any biometric you are working with, you're actually working, it's a probability, right?
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is get the 98% of the people to go through the system quickly and actually be efficient at what it does, right? Now, so for example, you can ask the same question, I can ask you the same question. What if you're doing retina scanning but you don't have an eye,
Yeah.
right? What if you're doing fingerprint but you lost your finger in a car,
Because
accident?
there
There are people that can't speak,
Yeah.
there are people that can't hear, there are people that can't see, and there are people that don't have hands, right?
Yeah.
So you can't, but it's the same, even with the password, it's the same kind of process. There are people who don't read and write English that may not be able to remember a password,
Yes.
right? So you can't, there is no one solution that works 100%.
100%.
So what you're really looking at is getting that 98% accurately and then deal with the others as an exception, because that's just the way it has to be. The world, unfortunately, is not 100%.
we need to consider these exceptions.
Right, yeah, so yes,
Okay.
yeah. So what we do is in an exception case, you can revert back to a password if you want to.
Because sometimes the people understood that is the same when you or this kind of the situation is not exception, but it's very important. For
No.
example, in the term and condition,
Yeah.
that you put this part that to explain to the customer that if you have a healthy problem or something like that, you need to identify it with other kind of service because that is not work.
And it's only, you got to remember that this is only a problem, not if you got a cold, right? If you got a cold, you won't have a problem. But if you got a swollen, like if your throat is swollen because you got
Yes.
tonsillitis, then it can impact it. Yes, absolutely. You know,
Okay.
it's no different than if you have a fingerprint and you got a cut in your finger, it won't work, right?
Yeah.
Or you got you're using retina scanning and you got in a bar fight yesterday and your eyes black, same thing, right?
I know.
Yeah. So,
But
it's a,
una cosa muy importante es que esto te ayuda a identificar, pero no le cierra la puerta a tus usuarios, no le cierra la puerta así de decir, no puedes accesar tu información.
Que puedes
Sí.
usar otros métodos, ¿no?
Sino que agarra y te dice posible fraude, no se logró identificar la voz. Tus políticas ya de seguridad ya ustedes las ponen. Puedo seguir
Sí,
con
bueno.
password, con el token, con fingerprint, lo
Ok.
que sea. Ahorita lo vamos a ver en la demo.
Ok.
Perfecto.
Quizás me adelante un poco, pero existen algunas certificaciones de seguridad del tamper resist, vulnerability o jacking,
Hacking.
The application has some
Certifications.
well, the application has been certified by a university because the Australian government actually used our technology to discover some problems internally.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
and it wasn't a permanent thing because there was some. What I can tell you is the government was doing some things that they normally won't do, but they had some problems internally with some stuff happening, right? So they were looking for a way to identify the people that were doing it.
Yeah.
So they went to the market, and what they did was they went to the market and said, well, who can provide a biometric that works in these spaces? They actually tested before the government took it because it was actually for classified information. It was actually for secure classified information. So we can provide you all those reports if you need to.
I have a question.
Sure.
In this case, that the service live in the cloud or the service live in this or some?
On the next slide, I'll cover that real quick. So, I mean, basically, we're talking about natural conversation, which we talked about, and the next slide
Okay,
actually answers
perfect.
your question.
No
right?
problem. Continues with that. Yeah.
On-premise or on-cloud. So you can do
Oh,
either,
Yeah.
right? So really, the capex, we talk about capex is really cost of implementation, right? The capital expense cost. Easy implementation, right? But this is really the key. Now, the key about the way we do our technology, the way we built it,
Okay.
if you want to run it in the cloud or on-premise, you're running exactly the same software.
Okay.
You copy the object from the cloud to the server, or from the server to the cloud,
Yeah.
right? So if you want to deploy it, say in another country where you don't want to put a server base, you may want to put it in the cloud, you can, or you can keep it in-house, you can. It really doesn't matter how you deploy it.
Yeah.
It's the exact same object that you run in the cloud and on-premise.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yep.
La primera, no sé si la entendieron, a mí me costó un poco de trabajo, no había visto esa
La inversión.
CAPEX,
Ajá,
ajá, es la inversión, o sea, no hay dispositivos que comprar, no hay...
Es solamente referente a infraestructura, ¿no?
Sí,
Ujú.
sí, no
Más
hay...
que los que necesites o
Exacto.
internamente la licencia de mantenimiento, lo que tengas que hacer.
Sí, pero para el
funcione.
usuario final no es como darle un token que te cuesta 25 o 30 dólares hasta
Pero el
50.
CAPEX aquí entonces está más enfocado al costo.
Al costo por tu usuario.
O sea, no le tienes que dar algún dispositivo para que pueda funcionar. Porque, por ejemplo, de Banorte, ¿no? Bueno, siempre pongo ese ejemplo. El de Face, reconocimiento facial. De verdad, no tienes una cámara, no funciona. ¿No? O sea, toda esa parte es buena del lado del usuario porque, por ejemplo, los smartphones, digo, pues todos tienen ya sea de 2 a 5 micrófonos, entonces te ayuda muchísimo.
Pero
para
no smartphones, los feature phones, no? We have problems sometimes in case of the feature phone because the camera is not work very well, no?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In this case, you can use this platform, no?
Right, yeah, exactly. And we do a lot of work inside the phone too, because we do a lot of work on the microphones to eliminate background noise. We can't completely, I mean, if you're standing near an airplane engine and trying to have a conversation, it ain't gonna work, right?
Yeah, the idea with this platform is that we can cover all the market.
Right.
Because sometimes if you use a specification biometrics, you need to use that a smartphone now works with feature phones.
Right.
No?
Right.
That's the
Yep.
principal idea. Okay.
Exactly. All right. And so we can run on-premise on the cloud. Can be integrated very easily into any existing platforms.
Only
we have.
have jobs. In this case, for example, on Prime, you mentioned that in this case, it's, for example, we can use our service, or it's necessary to use your...
No, you can use your service.
Okay.
So the reason we built it the way you can on-premise, because we don't have a secure data center.
Okay, perfect.
Right? So we don't run it for you. If we're going to run it, we have to run it in the cloud because we're not in the secure data space.
In your experience, what is the most, how do you say, best case scenario for this kind of the platforms?
You know, if you have the connectivity into your data centers, which I know Prosa does. I mean, you guys have a lot of connectivity. You have good quality connectivity because all your activity is coming from the outside world into your network and out, right? So you have that capability. It won't make a difference between on-premise and the cloud. Now, if you're a company that didn't have that type of connectivity, I would say go in the cloud because it's going to be more efficient. Because, you know, whether it's Amazon or Microsoft or whatever, they have all the connectivity. But you guys will be very much in comparison to that as far as performance is concerned. So it's really about speed of connectivity, right? And availability of connectivity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, for example, in case of Prosa, the major service use on-premise, but we start to migrate with cloud service, no? But we don't have experience in that part.
Well, we have.
That is very important to know what is the best case in this situation that they use for this platform.
One of the things about the cloud is that, for example, if you use Amazon, I'll just use because I can go. They all have different ways of doing it. But if you use Amazon Web Services, and you run it through a load balancer, Amazon has a load balancer, right? An automatic load balancer that's a part of the service. So if you run it through the Amazon load balancer, you can set up redundancies. Just set up, say, two or three servers based on your performance and throughput, and say these are the ones that are always running. These are servicing us. But the way Amazon runs is that you can actually create ghost copies of the servers that are not running, so you're not actually paying for them. Right?
Okay.
So, but if the load balancer suddenly figures out that this is going to, you know, I need more resources than I'm getting from these three, it'll fire those ghost copies up and they become serverless, right? So it becomes elastic. I mean, they talk about elastic computing. That's what it is.
It's on demand.
Right,
no?
exactly.
Right.
Whereas when you're buying here, if you're
In
on-premise,
our
you've got to
case,
buy the server,
yes.
right? And it's sitting there doing nothing. Whereas with Amazon, you have that elasticity in the computing where you can actually expand and contract when you go. So, for example, I'm assuming 2-3 in the morning, the transaction volumes are going to be pretty low, right?
Yeah.
But on payday, it's through the roof, right? So if you're
It's
on
not
premise,
the
you've
same
got to
case,
cater
yes.
for both. Whereas on here, your cost. So it does. I mean, you know, these services, like especially if you're looking at Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Oracle, right? Which are the 4 key ones. There are a lot of smaller ones. The security they provide is exceptional. I mean, these companies have the security protocols set up, and they are, you know, and if you are interested in looking at the cloud, we will bring one of the cloud providers with us, because they can talk more about their security than we can, right? But their security is, they do have the levels of security you need for banking transaction security, right? So if you go to some of the smaller ones, they're not as, I don't know whether they could be as safe, but if you look at the big 4, I mean, you know, Oracle's got a reputation to maintain, Microsoft's got a reputation to maintain, you know, their security and the way they set up their servers and things like denial of service attacks that they try to thwart and all that, there's a lot of technology behind how they secure the systems.
Even here in Mexico, Triara, I think you guys run some things in Triara. They have the highest certification for security and performance, and they offer exactly what Damian is telling. They offer exactly the same thing. If you need more resources, they advise you and they start these ghost copies, and they advise you. Your performance is getting past the threshold, so you require. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And we our apps and stuff like that all can be rebranded, because I know that most banks like to have their own branding rather than someone else's name on it. So that's just an easy thing for us to do. The branding is not a problem, as far as white labeling or branding you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
That's that.
Esto es muy importante, porque como ustedes venden los servicios a los bancos, les podemos poner el logo de quien quiera, ¿no? O sea, no tiene que ser el de Prosa, no tiene que ser el de ValidVoice, es poner todos los colores, logos, todos personalizados a los bancos miembros, ¿no?
Yes.
Any questions about what you heard? And if not, I can actually show you how it works.
I think this part is very clear,
Right.
But I think the most important or interesting part is that we can, if you can show us that the demo.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Can I get you, because I don't have internet connection? No. No. Keep your laptop. I'll take this off. Plug it in yours. And bring up a browser, and I'll show you.
Nada más con los consentidos, dice.
Es que antes, la verdad, in the past, the Wi-Fi was very good, but I don't know what happened, what changed nowadays, but nowadays it's terrible.
Let's see. Let's hope it works. But after that, I'll type in here. Hang on.
But in the past, maybe we can went in the bathroom at the
You can see your
but now,
YouTube.
So if you get a browser and go to that website.
Te voy a decir que cuando yo trabajé en Prosa no teníamos ni terminales tontas.
Any browser.
No teníamos ni PCs.
So demo.
¿En serio?
No teníamos. Éramos
Había
gente
unos
de papel.
locales, creo, ¿no? Pero lo instalaron aquí, la primera
Yo ya
vez.
no llegué aquí. Yo estaba en Monterrey y Oaxaca, pero en serio, o sea, querías tirar un comando y te tenías que ir a la consola del tándem.
Wow.
I'm going to show them that.
Yeah.
All right. So, and the website comes up. So here is one of our. I'll wait until this is done so I can use this laptop.
Esta es una demostración en vivo.
Okay.
Este es un ambiente en vivo, no es.
So this is one of our portals, right? So to log in, what you do is just click on the login button. Your network is fairly slow, but what I'm going to do is I will just grab my app on the phone,
Yeah.
right? And so the app is going to ask me for 2 questions, like I said before. It'll ask me for my phone number, and it'll show me 4 numbers, and I got to repeat the 4 numbers, and that's it, right? So what I'll do is I'll grab my app, I'll turn on the camera. 402-516-4224. 8328.
In your screen, that's
and it's done. It's logged in.
Aquí fue un poco
Right.
más.
Now, what it's asked me here is on my screen, it's telling me whether I want to pair it. Okay, so I can pair it. So for example, if it's my own laptop and my own phone, so I don't have to scan the QR code, I can actually pair the two to my phone, the
For
devices.
example, this is we can use in case of the digital banking.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Appear the QR and you put in your cell phone, and after that you can repeat
Yeah,
the
right.
Yeah.
some.
But-
Right.
but-
But it's a simple, but if you think about logging in there, how simple that was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, think about, that is faster than typing a user ID and a password and remembering it.
Can we do it again?
Sure,
Another-
yeah.
Can we
Can you
log
sign
off? Log off?
Log off.
Just to show you, and I want to show you guys another thing.
See, if you don't
This
have
is-
the cell phone,
If you don't have the cellular phone or whatever, or you are sick or
You
whatever,
can click on here and revert back to a regular user ID and password.
user
right?
ID and password.
Right, so you can go that road if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you click on here again, Voxit and login. So I'll show you, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my phone, I'll scan that QR code because I did not pair it before, right? It'll ask me for 2 questions, say my phone number, and I got to do this because I can't see. And it will show me 4 numbers on the screen that I got to read, and it will log you in. So I'll turn the camera on, and I'll see this. 402-516-4224. 7686. It should be coming up. It's done.
Es lento.
And it just came
porque
and said it's done. And then
la red está
Y por la
lenta.
red.
Ajá.
oh, access denied. I must have said the wrong number. Can you refresh that again?
Maybe it's.
I know I did said the wrong number. Let me get my glasses.
Una sesión activa.
Que no les
Let me get my glasses.
Maybe.
This is better. All right, we'll try it now.
That some biometrics didn't work.
Yes. Exactly. So I'll start the app again. Four zero two 516-4224. 4122.
I have a question.
Sure.
How it's work that part in the, if for example, in a
It's not
call
enough.
center?
Okay.
Right? So it's as simple as that.
In a call center?
Yeah, because I saw in your presentation that the benefit of this part is that it's omni-channel.
Right, yes.
Exactly.
So
How
what
to use this
So
in
what I will
the-
do is, so that's, and it just asked me to pair again, right? So it says,
Okay.
so if it's my own device, because that's your laptop and my phone, so I won't pair it, but if it's mine,
Mhm.
I can pair it, and the next time I don't have to scan the QR code, it'll actually show up on my app saying I can sign on,
Okay.
right? And I'll show you the call center in a minute here, how that works. I'll call our call center
Yep.
from my phone, right? So if you click on proof of concepts here, and yeah, call center demo.
No era preparada.
That's it.
You was not prepared.
So this is just a call center we have that we built.
Okay.
Right now, you got to remember this is built for the US, so we ask for social security number and all that. This is all changeable, right? The data is changeable. So when I call my call center, it's going to ask me, because I'm actually talking to an IVR, it'll ask me 3 questions. It'll ask me for my name, my phone number, and my last 4 of my social security. That's the way we built this, just for demo, right?
But it can be changed.
Again, none of
Whatever
it's
you-
fixed. That's not fixed. That's just
Uh-huh.
we need some questions to ask.
Automatic.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you, and then what I'll do first is I'll be myself, right?
Yeah.
And then I will be someone else, and I'll show you what happens. So let me call the call center.
Mhm.
It just takes a while to connect to the US because this is in the US.
Y esto es solamente el dashboard de la prueba de concepto. Esto puede.
Damien Di Rosario. Four zero two 516-4224. $9611. So it's going to go with right? So it's actually done in the IVR, but you'll see what happens here, and I'll show you the next call. So it actually comes up verified caller, but it actually identified, right? So in a call center, you have to do two things. One is do the identification, and the second is do the identity verification, right? So there's two functions. You identify and then verify the identity, right? So it's done both because it's identified, it knows who I am, but it also says it's a verified caller. So again, this type of information can be changed. This is just how we built it, because we don't have a call center, so we kind of built what we thought was cool. Can you close that box and you hit that X? So this time I'm actually going to, so you know that in your call, because you guys have call centers, right?
Yeah.
If you call your call center and the wrong person gives the right information, the operator does not know it's the wrong person, right? They don't know. Right? If I called you, I know I bank with JP Morgan Chase, and I know the questions they're going to ask. If I call them now and wrote down all the answers, and one of you guys talk to them, they will not know who it is. They will give you the information because they're going off information, right? So what I'm going to do this time when I call them, I'm going to actually give the correct information of someone else, but I'm the wrong person, right? And I'll show you what happens. It just takes a couple of seconds connecting. Let's go in direct. Timothy Nerowski. 402-885-3430. $5573.
Please wait while we confirm your identity. We cannot identify you through this automated system. Please wait while we transfer you to an operator for further assistance.
Right? But what it'll do is it'll actually show that you can actually identify, right? So it can identify me in this situation, right? Now I can try again. It obviously didn't understand something I actually said, because what it'll do is if it understood some of the information I said, it will actually say it's a fraudulent caller. So I can try again and see whether I can actually make it understand some of the information. Maybe I pronounced the name slightly wrong. So let me try again. Can you close this window? Timothy Nerowski. $402-885-3430. $5573. See what it says this time.
I'm having trouble identifying you. Please wait while I transfer you to an operator for further assistance.
So this time it actually identified me, right? Because I said the name, everything correctly. So it did an identification, but it can't verify my identity. So it actually said possible fraud detected, right? So I'm giving the exact same information, the correct way that it knows the information is correct, because it actually this time it pulled up my data. But it knows that I'm not the right person still. So from a fraud perspective and from an identification perspective, you know, it takes that one next level, that it actually not only just gets the information, because the first time obviously I didn't probably say the name properly, because that's a hard name to pronounce, so it didn't think that I said the right thing, so he didn't get any information. But the second time I got it closer, so it actually said, oh well, he did say the right name, phone number, and social security, but he's still not the right person, so it actually comes back with that.
And it does not close the door. It just...
Well, now what you can do with this is we can route that call to maybe a different queue. So because you in your call center you will have a queue that has your regular operators, right?
Yes.
The ones that are the paid, the lowest amount of money, but they just know how to service. Then you'll have your fraud teams or your teams that have more experience, more management experience or whatever it is. So you can take that call and route it to them and go, hey, there's a problem here. Because the right information, wrong person, can you identify them? So they can go through more checking or whatever they got to do. But you find that most of the time when this happens, people will hang up the phone because they go, I just got found out, right? Too, right?
Yeah.
So it's the other thing we can do is that we can start building blacklists too, right? We can start building blacklists. So now the blacklist, the one thing with the blacklist is we can't have a million people on a blacklist. It doesn't work if it's not efficient, right? But if you have one person, or say not one, but say 50 to 100, 200 people that we know are regularly trying different things, we can knock them off very early with using a blacklist also.
Sorry,
Yeah.
to build this blacklist, you receive the phone number, what data you receive to detect the possible fraud.
The possible fraud.
No, from this you mean? It's not detecting anything. Because my phone number is not the one I call from, so it doesn't matter. I can call from your phone,
Okay.
and it'll do exactly the same thing. It actually is using my speech. It's not using anything from the device.
Aquí lo que pasó es que dijo la información correcta, el nombre de teléfono, pero la voz no.
Sí, exacto.
So it's only
ya lo
using
había
my
hecho en la
speech.
primera ocasión y
Ajá.
nada más apareció un
Desconocido,
Ajá.
porque ahí se equivocó
En el
en
nombre.
el nombre, no lo pronunció bien.
Ah.
Entonces ahí no fue ni la información correcta ni la voz correcta.
So it's not using anything from my device. So if I picked up your phone and called, it'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not using any, what they call any, the actual phone number,
Yeah.
caller ID.
Estamos relacionados.
Sí, exacto. Ya.
Ujú.
Es que en la primera no me quedaba claro, entonces una mala pronunciación o
Exacto.
un dato incorrecto al momento de mencionar el nombre.
Es que con ese apellido, ¿quién no se equivoca?
Because this is this is a copy of our live system,
Yeah.
right? So it actually works just like the live system. It's just the live system has customer data in it, so we don't demo with that. But if you want to, I can show. I mean, this has a lot of all the auditing, all the data that we log about who's doing what, how much speech we got. All that is actually available through this portal. And if you have it on premise or in the cloud, you'll have access to the similar portal if you need to. For doing research, for doing problem solving, whatever it is that you're trying to do too. So, we have it's a transaction log basically that tells you what everyone's doing and what they're doing and how they're getting through the system. So what do you guys think? It is an easy way for every customer, right? It's a simple way. If you're a customer, if you take yourself out, I always tell people, and I look at it this way. I'll tell you how this whole thing came about. Not the biometric, we didn't have the biometric for quite a while. But the way we started using it as a password only has been done in probably the last maybe 14, 16 months. And this really happened to me. I was at, do you know what Mutual of Omaha is? It's a fairly big insurance company in the US. It's a top 5, it's like a fifth in the Fortune 500, it's the fifth biggest company in the world, right? I was in there doing a demo of the biometric, and I had one of my salespeople there, and they're like, "Oh, can you show them the portal?" And I got to the portal, and I couldn't remember my password. and I sat there for a while, and I'm like, "Oh, God." And that's when it dawned on me, we're a biometric company, why am I using a password? Because I forgot, there was no way, so I couldn't show them the portal that day. But all I did is, as soon as I got out of the building, I got in my car, and I called my tech lead, and I go, "Why do we have to use a password?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "We are a biometric company. We've got to figure a way out. I forgot my password and I couldn't do the demo because I just couldn't get in the system. Why is this?" And that's how it actually started, because you actually start thinking about it and you go, you know what? As a consumer, if you take yourself out of your position here at ProSAR, and you look at it from a consumer, how easy it is to get, right?
Yes.
You walk up to your bank, you walk in, you go to the portal, you call them, you're doing the same thing. Everyone knows their phone number. And very few people forget their own phone number. It's just one known thing that you just say. It's a simple process.
And it doesn't have to be the phone number.
It can be anything you want.
Anything you want.
And we, again, like I said, did a lot of these demos, when we build a demo, we had to build something that we think is usable. That's why we have social security number, which I know you don't have here, right? But, so we do that kind of thing. But
And now, architectural diagram, you have some scheme. Architecture.
It's very simple.
Very easy.
It's actually very simple.
I was some time ago, I was trying to see the
All right,
diagram.
I will actually, you know what, I will
Yeah.
find.
¿Tienes un plumón? No.
What I'm going to do is I actually will find something off. No, I can. I have
Yeah,
a.
okay.
Just remember it.
Le dije, oye, enséñame el diagrama, 4 cuadritos. Digo, no, pero enséñame el diagrama. Y dije, bueno, ¿por qué lo estoy haciendo tan complicado? O sea, es tan simple como eso. Ahorita te vas
So
a dar
this is
cuenta.
the document I'm going to pull up here is actually off a patent we just wrote.
Ah, yeah.
Right?
You need to project the
Yeah. Yeah.
little thing this.
I need to find the image because I'm actually pulling up a patent that we just filed a patent on this. So I'm just gonna file. I have a lot of documents here. I'll just find the actual because there's a diagram in the patent. I haven't got one in my slide deck, but I have a diagram in the patent.
Okay.
Okay, this is it. So I'll plug this in.
Pero como dijo él, o sea, esto se puede integrar muy sencillamente a cualquier aplicación, a cualquier plataforma que ustedes tengan.
Okay. Okay.
Do I have to reinstall it or?
No, push it.
To
¿no?
push. Ajá.
Ahora la unidad. Feature
It
is-
says reinstall. Yeah.
This kind of platform, the focus is more like that the digital banking or something like that. Or do you have any in your roadmap? Do you have any case for e-commerce or something like that? Or nowadays it's only for the authentication?
No, for e-commerce, yeah, we do. We do have a case. We actually have a part. So I'll give you a bit of a background of who we are, right? We started off, my career, I started off on Base 24.
Okay,
Yes.
I expect
ACI?
ACI. I actually worked here in, I worked at Prosa in 94, 93, 94. Not in this, I can't even remember where it was, but I actually did some work on XPNet here. So I come from an ACI background, right? So this is actually our patent filing.
maybe something.
Let's see.
Maybe do you know to Jose Luis Ortega?
No.
Jose Luis Ortega is the only. I used to work for Prosa. I was the founders of Red
Okay.
and the POS network. I was the founders in 1990. No, 87. In 87.
Oh my God.
Jose Luis Ortega was the sales guy for HP and then for ACI. Now he's in ACI again.
Yeah.
J-Lo.
So I mean, just to kind of finish that conversation. So we do actually have a prototype we built for doing a cardless ATM transaction, right? So basically, you use your app, you do your biometric, you put the amount. I want to withdraw $20. Identify. It gives you a token, a number, because the whole key for when we designed the prototype was that we didn't want to modify the ATM, so we'd not change the ATM, but in case instead of that, give a token on the screen. You take up that to the ATM, type it into the ATM, and it gives you $20, right? And the way we designed it was the idea that you can then make it a person-to-person payment also. So I have lunch with you. I go back to my office. I need to give you $20. I go into my app, put $20. Get you the number, give it to you, so you can just go to any bank, put that number in, and get the money out, right? Yes. So from an ATM perspective, then we also did a prototype we're working with a prospect that's going through a POC at the moment, but they have what they call ITMs. Have you heard about what they have? The ATMs, the automated teller machines. They have ITMs, or interactive teller machines. What that means is that they have a contact center, and there's a person there with a camera. So, but the ATM, actually, you talk to the person. So you go up to the ATM, you put your PIN or whatever, but you actually talk to the person itself. So you can have a conversation. It's not like a dead device like an ATM is, right? And they are doing that. They're doing a biometric in that, and they're using the actual QR code to scan it. So when they, rather than putting a PIN, when the ATM just flashes up the screen on the QR code, the person scans it on their phone, authenticates. Because the problem with ITMs is otherwise, in the US at least, they grab your driving license and hold it to the camera.
Yeah.
So the quality of the driving license coming on the other end is pretty average, because if you can't reach close, it doesn't, or if it doesn't focus right, and so they're getting around that by doing that, right? On the POS side, the only thing that you can do on the POS side that we believe is actually do it with the QR code. So the way the system works, and this, like I said, this is off the patent itself. So this is what we published recently. So you scan the QR code. The QR code is when you bring the website up, it actually brings up it sends us a message. We send back a QR code. There's a unique identifier for that session.
Okay.
Right? Now, our demo system, there's only one little difference between a live system that you may have and our demo system. Is that in the demo system, because we always sit there talking to you, we don't expire that QR code. We actually leave it for like 10 minutes. In the real system, that QR code will expire in 30 seconds. So that you have to refresh the screen if you don't log in. So we don't want things hanging out there, sessions out there that we don't know what's going on, right? But then you scan the QR code, you gather the biometric data, you send it to the server, right? Now, the phone has no other contact with your backend system. If the biometric is good, then we will provide, our server will send your server a message saying log this person on, right? So hacking this app provides you nothing, because this app can't actually log the server on. This app is only gathering information, and it gives you a result saying whether it worked or not, but the result is kind of pointless really, because you'll know when you log in if you logged in. But that's all it does. So it has no interaction with your server. So that eliminates and protects your end backend systems, your portals or whatever, from that app directly. This is the part that we provide.
Okay. This is clear.
Now we can get further into.
Todo se guarda en la nube.
Es una puerta y
Exacto.
te valida y ya te deja pasar, después el servidor ya da la instrucción para...
El teléfono solo es el acceso a
Exactamente.
Y no se guarda nada.
And one of the reasons we do it from an app rather than a phone is simple. When you get on the phone band, you can get, the phone band can have issues, right? Because you may be in a position where you got disturbances, bad weather and all that, but the data band doesn't have any issues generally. Because once you get the data captured, you can send it, there's lots of different ways to get it up into the network, right? So when we can use the phone band if you want to, but we prefer to use the data band because the data band is cleaner. We don't get all the disturbances, packet loss, compression, loss of compression. So one of the things that I don't know whether you know, but like if I'm talking to you here, I sound one way. But if I called you, I sound slightly different, right? You don't sound exactly the same. There's a slight difference in your voice. And the reason is between the device and the tower, they actually use compression. And they lose some of the clarity or the quality of the voice, right? So they actually lose some of that quality. So that is why it actually looks different. Now, what happens if you've got really bad connections, that quality starts dropping off rapidly because they start dropping a lot of bits out of that the voice stream, right? Where you go on the data band, you won't have that issue. Now, with a phone call in a contact center, it's natural. If I make a call and I call you and I can't hear you, I'm going to hang up and call again. I won't try to persist with a phone that doesn't work, right? I mean, we've all made a phone call at some point that didn't work and we just redial. So that is, when you're doing a contact center, it's a different world because we are used to using the device. And we know that if the phone call doesn't go through, we just got to hang up and dial again. But for like a portal or an ATM or something like that, it becomes more important that you actually get it right the first time. Because it's not natural for us to hang up and try again.
Yeah, good. Sounds good.
Well, I guess, that's kind of what, I don't know whether I have any more diagrams in here. Yeah, so this is actually more of a because when you file for patents, you got to provide picture diagrams as well as flow diagrams. So this is kind of the more thing. So, scan the QR code, gather the biometric data, which is what the device does, confirm the identity, either deny access or confirm access granted to your server. So the phone device has no interaction with your endpoints. So that's separated. So every interaction comes from a trusted server source, right? So that keeps your endpoint safe in the long run.
For mobile, doesn't exist SDK?
SSL? Yeah.
SDK.
Software
Development kit.
Development.
Yeah, we actually do have. We have a development kit for the phone.
Yes.
You can have our app itself. What we recommend is if you want to to embed our technology into your app, use our app and some of the bits are out of our app, because our app has some, especially on the microphones, we do a lot of work to eliminate background noise, right? So we provide you the libraries and say, use this library to get access to the microphone, because if you use this library on an iPhone or Android, you are going to have less background noise than if you just go out and open the microphone and listen to it. You can, but you won't have done the work that we've done on the microphones. Because I don't know whether you guys know, but all these phones have a minimum of 2 microphones, right? Then some of them have 3 and 4. Almost every one of the smartphones have 2. What we do, for example, is we listen to both constantly, and we work out, because generally background noise you can hear from both microphones. Speech, you can only hear from one of them. So we actually use the 2 microphones to eliminate some of the background noise. So we actually make the processes work more efficiently. And the app itself is, as soon as it becomes foreground, means you just about use it, it actually goes into an auto-calibrate state, so it actually starts listening to background noise. So on the consumer app, you'll never see this function, but because on my demo app, I actually have a function I can show it to you. Let me get my glasses. It actually sits there constantly calibrating itself. So if you actually look at these numbers, when I talk, these numbers go up. If I'm quiet, it starts going back down. And if I start talking again, you can see these numbers actually going up, the amplitude is going up. So it's constantly listening to both microphones and trying to eliminate the background noise and tries to actually capture my voice rather than anything in the background. Now, like I said, in the consumer app, this feature is not enabled where you can actually see it, right? But the reason I have this and all our test apps internally have this is I do a lot of testing. So I go to every airport I go to, I'm just running a test. And I constantly take notes as to how much amplitude, how much sound is in the background. So we're constantly seeing how efficient the microphone usage is in our systems.
Okay. Another question?
Cool.
No?
I mean, I'm sure that you'll have lots of questions going forward. That's a part of this process. So I guess we got to figure out is what do you think? Do you think you have a desire to want to look at it? I think I can give you a card to look at it any further. And if you do, then we have a technical team that can help you with technical answers. You can, and I'm sure you have an architecture team internally that will need to look at the architecture and how it works. We can sort of kind of go through that process with you, and then work out whether there is a commercial benefit to both companies. I mean, at the end of the day, that's where it has to be, right? If you've got a benefit, we got a benefit, otherwise it doesn't work. So, I mean, from you guys just looking at it from outside, not whether you buy or not is a different story, but what do you think? I mean, what do you think about the idea?
Okay, I like the idea. We need to review how to implement this platform in process. It's not easy to introduce some new platform, but it is very interesting. I'm responsible for digital banking. It's a important functionality to improve in the platform, and it's very important to the clients.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we have another authentication,
Method.
automated authentication is another,
Mm-hmm.
and is more safe than other that we have at this moment.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know if you have a commercial presentation, because for us it's very important to sell this kind of solution internally, and I don't know if you have a commercial presentation that we can use internally to show this new solution, and with this presentation maybe we can create the business case or for selling internally, and after that we can take a decision about that.
Right. We can do that. We can set up a present. I mean, we can pretty much build a presentation. We have lots of different flavors of presentations we do.
Okay.
So we'd be happy to share some of that with you, and then work with you to build one through Miguel, and probably even build it in Spanish so that you can it's easier for you to present. Yeah, but that's not a problem. We can work with Miguel to get back
Now,
to
I
you.
mean, do you have this presentation in English?
Yeah,
Yes.
but we can
But in
It's
English,
necessary in Spanish.
maybe it works in English,
Okay.
and after that if we can forward with more comments. Maybe
Okay.
we can translate for.
Yeah, and we can. Yeah, I mean, Miguel's team can easily translate it for us, so it's not a. It's something that's easy for us to do.
Sí, nosotros la mandamos. Nosotros el martes tenemos una reunión con José Luis Andrade. Le voy a presentar la misma información.
Pues es nuestro jefe.
Sí, sí, él me lo encontré el otro día. Ah, pues viste que me lo
Sí,
encontré. Y me dijo que quería ver la presentación, ¿no? Entonces, le vamos a dar la misma presentación.
Yo creo que uno de los temas que comentaba Juanma es el tema de la parte comercial, de cómo lo tenemos que vender hacia nuestros posibles clientes.
Ajá.
Y uno de los puntos importantes y que no quería dejar pasar era el tema de la prevención de fraude.
Ajá.
Si tenían algún tema estadístico, alguna historia de decir, mira, con esta solución nosotros hemos identificado, se han prevenido, detenido posibles fraudes de 200 llamadas, el 20% por el tema de la suplantación de las personas y demás. Si hubiera un poco de estadística sobre eso, sería muy provechoso para fundamentar.
Si quieres te lo mando. Ya eso me lo pidió Arturo Benítez también.
Ah, pues sí.
Entonces, pero se los mando a ustedes. Si nos dan sus emails, por favor. Tú
Ya
me
tengo
dices
aquí su tarjeta. No, pues
Yo
estoy
no
anote.
tengo, el mío es Juan.Ortiz.
Juan.Ortiz.
Sí,
Bueno, y sí, ya tenemos todo.
¿Los estadísticos?
Statistics of fraud. How percentage
Prevention fraud.
Prevents fraud.
Well, I mean, because you're identifying the actual person itself, right? The chances of fraud are extremely low. Are you asking for global statistics on fraud, or what?
Yeah, global statistics.
Global statistics.
Well,
and they use this solution.
Right.
Using
the
this.
frauds global we have at these
Right. Okay.
features.
All right. I can get you some
There are
statistics.
2 points in this part. The first point is that how do you prevent with this solution the fraud?
Okay.
And the second, maybe what is the expectation about the market that the people migrate for the password and the part of this kind of technology?
Okay.
Do you mean by the customer experience?
No, it's that. For example, nowadays, I don't know, 90% of the people use the password. What is the expectation that this kind of person migrate for this kind of solution? Because this is, how do you say, the market share or the possibility that we have in the market, no, to grow this kind of platform.
Yeah.
Because the people don't know about this platform or this solution, and the people
Yeah, they get scared something new.
why I need to talk with to enter to my digital banking. The people will be afraid about this. This is my personal
We
opinion.
can get you some information. Now, the studies we have done. So we're actually doing a study right now.
Okay.
Not in the banking field, but it's a study that's kind of relevant to banking. It's in the medical field, right? With patient health records, which is people look at patient health almost like banking, right? The security concept is the same. So the study is there. We're actually doing it at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, the UNMC, due to the teaching hospital there and the university there just down the road from our office. And what they have found is that the break age at the moment seems to be around the mid-30s. Anyone under the mid-30s adapts to technology very quickly, right? Because they are used to, like I have a 22-year-old daughter. This is all she wants to carry, right? I mean, she doesn't care about anything else because that's what they do. They grew up with technology. They grew up with phones, so they adapt very quickly, right? So the study that's actually going on right now is they're taking a group of 60+ patients and studying the difference between passwords and a biometric. And those results should be out in the next few weeks because they're actually doing a live study with live data with patients. So that should give us a fairly good understanding of what it is. Now, the initial results are telling us is that the change takes a bit of good marketing, but once they change, they like it. Because the 60+ or 70+ person doesn't get the password thing.
Yes.
Right? Like, you tell a person it's got to be a password, upper and lowercase, numbers, special characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't get that. They can't remember that. Their brain is not,
Yes.
right? So the conversion takes a little convincing them, but once they convert, they find that's easier, is what we're finding or so far, right? But that's very early stage results.
That is the reason that it's very important to know what is the expectation of the growth of this kind of solution. No,
Yeah.
because for example, maybe nowadays the password or the cost of the password, I don't know, it's 1 Mexican pesos, no?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the solution or the cost of this solution is two Mexican pesos, no? If there is a gap between the cost of the password and the new solution.
Mhm.
But the most important is how many save with this kind of solution.
Yeah.
No, and this part we need to put in the business case.
Right.
No,
And we can
Yeah,
provide
right.
the data. We
bring
can
the
provide
right.
the data. Yeah.
and that is the reason that we need to know the data that to
Right.
explain what is the reason that now the
It's
banks
process.
need to spend or increase the expenses
Right.
about this kind of this solution, no?
Yeah.
But it's more safe because the expectation is they grow up in the future, no? Because what is the percent of the prevention fraud with the solution in comparison or in comparing with the password, no?
And also maybe the usual current usual increase the demand of the service.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
The customer experience go up,
Yes.
and if it goes up, your customers go up.
Yes.
Your users.
So I think the gap that we, from our early stage studies, we're seeing is, like I said, the mid-30s. So say on average 35 and below, adoption is easy because they are technology based, right? They're tech people. The 60 to 65 and above, it takes a good marketing message, and they will convert, and they like it once they convert. The between the 35 to 65 gap, it's really about information.
Okay.
Because I'm in that age group. Apparently, we make decisions based on information because you didn't grow up with tech, so tech is not all, because the younger generation just trusts technology because they've grown up with it.
Yes.
But we need information, right? So that is where the marketing message is really important. And I'm not talking about writing documents. I'm talking, when you're advertising that message about, that the messaging is really important to that middle sector because they're looking for the message before they convert, right?
And on the other hand, I don't know if there is information about that the percent of the fraud with the password. It's very interesting. Maybe measure that what is the percent nowadays with the fraud with password, because maybe the people wrote in the notebook or something like that, and they other people stole the information. I don't know if
there's a lot of statistics like that.
Yes.
There was actually a report put out by Verizon recently on some of the statistics.
Because it's very important to compare that part. That maybe nowadays the fraud with password is this, and with that the new solution is the expectation is this, and maybe we can reduce.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a lot of that data. I will.
Okay.
You took a note. If you can email me those notes you just took, I
Yes.
will. We have a lot of data because we spent. To get to a solution like this, it costs a lot of money, right? I mean, there's a lot of R&D that goes into it.
Because
So it's
the
a
most
massive process.
important thing I think in this part is that we need to explain to the bank what is the
Why
reason
was about it?
that they need to the benefit, and first, what is the reason that they need to expend more money in this kind of solution,
Right.
but what is their benefit for them?
It's about return on investment,
Yeah,
right?
return on investment.
Yes.
Plus,
Yeah. Simple.
I don't know if you know, guys, that la CNBB and Banco de México are legislating about it already. So chapter.
The chapter.
No, I don't think it's in the chapter 10 because they will start to legislate first in biometrics, and then they will adapt it to chapter 10. But next year we will have a lot of requirements from
The
them.
regulation only mention about that there are second factor,
Two-factor, right?
and they mention that they are biometrics.
Mhm.
No in a specific like fingerprint or something like that, but they mention that if you has a biometric factor, it's secure.
Yeah.
That's all.
Mhm.
Or
And we agree, right?
maybe in the future.
Yeah, in
they
the
are
future, yeah.
continuous to regulate that part, but nowadays that is not happening.
Because the few years ago they had not even that.
Yes.
No.
But
Not
also,
even that.
the challenge there is that if you are looking at a second factor being a biometric, you might as well pick a biometric that can work across all the channels, right?
Yes.
And that's really the key. Is picking that biometric that is accessible. And I go back to the same question. I actually have. It's interesting because since I started doing this, I've had this argument with my bank, right? And it's a very simple argument I have with my bank, which is
I think nowadays the technology is more forward than the
bank.
regulation.
Right. But what I also ask my bank manager is if I bring $10,000 in cash here now, and I have my account number written on a piece of paper, I said, would you take it? He goes, yes. I go, great. Now, if I come back an hour later and I want $100 out of that, and I forgot to bring my driving license, will you give it back to me? He goes, no. And I said, why? Why is it my problem? I'm the consumer. Forget my technology, right? I'm the consumer. Why did you make it my problem now? You took my money. It's my money. Because, well, we need to identify, but I go, that's exactly what we need to identify. You need to identify me. It's not my responsibility.
Yeah.
But why? But if you think about today's world, I mean, we all live with that with our banks, right?
Yeah.
If you forget what you do for a living, our banks and our personal life, the responsibility to identify is mine. Why is it? I'm the consumer.
The responsibility of the
It should be your responsibility to
save
identify.
my money.
Right?
That's all.
Right? You should be your responsibility to identify me, not me. Because you make me inconvenient. Because if I forget my driving license, I'm screwed. I can't get any money out. Right? And I've had that happen in real life where I've gone to the bank and I can't get money. Go back to my office to pick up my driving license so I can go back to identify myself. Right? So when you think about it from that perspective, I think the world will change because of what we are expecting more and more, right? And we are expecting more and more because consumers are getting smarter, right? I mean, think about it.
More picky.
One of the biggest challenges to banks right now, right, is the fintechs,
Yes.
Yes.
right? Fintechs are killing banks,
Yes.
right? Because why? I mean, I bank, for example, my daughter is, what?
Easy, faster.
My daughter is a member of the military, right?
And cheap.
So there's USAA Bank. I don't know if you heard of USAA Bank in the US. USAA is a military bank. They don't have one branch anywhere. Not a single branch. They don't own a single ATM. They don't have a single branch. And you bank with them, but you know what? Their banking is just everything is easy because I do my deposits on my phone. I can withdraw from any ATM. They will refund me the fees, right? Because to them, it's cheaper to refund me the $2 surcharge at the ATM than have an ATM.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So the fintech model is that, right? I don't want brick and mortar. I don't want to build a branch. I don't want to have people. I don't want to have this. I want to have that.
Yeah.
So fintechs are killing the real banks in a lot of ways. And I think it will continue that path. So what's happening is innovation is coming into that fintech market, right?
Yeah.
The whole innovation is, if I don't have a bank, I don't have a person to go see, I need to make the system work without that contact. How can I do that? And so innovation is really going in that world. So I look at, probably 20 years from now, the banks as we know it won't exist.
The enrollment is easy because you can enroll in your cell phone.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
the same case at the banks because they have a lot of protocol.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think that the banks, the way they are today, the Citibanks of the world, if they don't change, they won't be around in 20 years.
No.
No.
This is the same case in Mexico, eh?
Right.
The same case. The
bank.
Bancomer is the major bank with this kind of technology. For Citigroup, it's
They're dying. Because they are dinosaurs, right? I mean,
The other
because they're
side.
building buildings, right? They are building buildings where,
Yes.
you know, it's like, it's funny because you look at,
and all the team it's in the Hong Kong, and they need to how do you say, put a ticket in the platform, and maybe in 2 or 3 months they assign the developer for the solution.
Solution.
Right.
And that is not
but the world, but you know,
nowadays.
you look at the, you know, in the IT world now, the model that people are going to is this repetitive development model too, right?
Yes.
I mean, in the fintechs,
Yes.
they're changing constantly, right?
Yes.
You know, I call up and go, I don't like this. Well, tomorrow they'll have a new version. Maybe not be perfect, but they have another thing that they fixed, right? And whereas with the bank, you say, well, I want a different thing, and it's, you know, 6 months. Give me 6 months and $1 million, and maybe I can get you something.
Yeah,
right?
because they put the ticket in on Hong Kong,
Right, yeah.
no? And they, how do you say, and they
Prioritize it?
Right, yes. And after that, maybe you need to pass for the risk apartment.
Right.
And after that, we need, you know,
Right.
And the process is very complicated
And expensive.
and expensive.
Right. Whereas a fintech can do it at a lot less cost, a lot faster. So that's why they're winning the battle, right?
Yes.
And as that generation that is now in the US, they call the baby boomers, right? The
Yes.
generation that the 65 plus are getting older and older, and they're kind of going away.
Yeah, yeah.
The next generation that's coming up is tech savvy. You know, they want mobility now, right? I mean, everything is done here. You know,
The phrase of this kind of person is faster.
right. Faster and mobility, right?
Mobility.
I want to be able to, I mean, I loved it. Like yesterday coming in, I booked in, and I asked you the question because I checked into my airline and United on my app, right? I checked into my hotel on my app.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so everything's
all
done.
in-
I didn't see a person. I went to the airport, I went to my counter, got in the plane, came here.
All the life, it's
That is it. That is it.
The key is the
Right. And you know what? Think about it too. How many times will you leave home without your wallet and your money? But you'll never leave home without this, right?
Never.
That is becoming the way it is. Life is becoming that. Because we are living life off this thing.
Yeah.
Who knows what this thing will look like in 10 years, but we will be more and more dependent on it. Because one of the questions I asked Miguel on the way here is, I have a mobile boarding pass to go back. I said, does the airport here accept it, or do I need to go get a paper one? That was one of the questions I asked him, right? It was like,
For example, two months ago, Uber it doesn't work,
uh-huh.
and oh my god, I need to take a taxi.
Yes. I don't rent cars anymore. Right, I don't rent cars anymore.
Monterrey with that. Okay, where I can take a taxi?
But you know, car rental.
Monterrey, because we didn't know the city. Maybe in Mexico City we can walk and take a taxi, but in Monterrey I didn't know where I can take a taxi. And oh my god, we have a problem.
And you know, like car rentals, you know, when we travel, we used to always rent cars. We don't anymore, just Uber, right?
Yeah.
Because Uber, a good thing is when you get out of the car, you don't have to pay. Payment is automatic. I get from A to B, thank you, I'm out. I'm going to do my business. I don't have to worry about parking. I don't have to worry about returning a rental car on the way back to the airport. It's simple. So the world is changing a lot. And that's, you know, it's interesting to see how the banks go. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, I guess Miguel will follow up.
Nice to meet you.
Les hacemos llegar esa
Sí,
información.
por favor.
Muchas gracias.
No, gracias. Y ese, por ejemplo, es un buen adelanto para la reunión con José Luis,
Ujú.
que él es el head de productos.
Y que si le traes